It's not easy to walk onto a stage and talk about genocide, but that's what my research is ultimately about. Attacks on people because of difference of skin colour or culture or religion, excluding them from mainstream society or trying to wipe them out altogether. Attacks like this actually create strong bonds between the attackers. Calling someone else the enemy and turning on them together makes you and me friends and allies. Us versus them. The good guys versus the bad guys. It's not fair on the victims, but it works, so we've been doing it for thousands of years. History is full of it, from the Ku Klux Klan to the Cronulla riots. The ancient Greeks did it too, and in a very deliberate way. They actually had formal sacrifices of victims who were chosen for being different, like foreign or disabled. And at these sacrifices, they also performed plays about violently kicking misfits out of society. Misfits like Antigone, who rebels against religion, or Oedipus, who's a crippled foreigner. These plays were big hits. The audience loved imagining being part of the in-group, violently getting rid of the weird outsider. And these stories supported their culture of doing it for real. Now, as then, our stories reflect our morals and prejudices that make up our actions, our laws, and our politics. In my research, I analyse modern stories, the novels and movies that we read and watch today. I want to know if our stories are hostile to outsiders. And I've found that some are, but others aren't. In fact, though they depict violence towards outsiders, their message is more like, it's not as simple as good guys versus bad guys, or even, this is wrong and you're just doing it to make yourselves feel better. I look for markers in these stories, like whether the victim is killed for being different, whether she's blamed for bringing it on herself, or whether the story blames the attackers. So why does it matter? We've recently been horrified by the acts of terror group IS. Such acts are the ultimate in us versus them thinking, casting themselves as the heroes and demonizing others as deserving of death. And in response, many in the West grab at the same kind of us versus them thinking. My research looks for alternatives to that kind of thinking, because returning prejudice for prejudice, violence for violence, keeps the cycle going. And I'm finding evidence that we are exploring other ways of thinking, beyond hatred and fear of difference, finding lines of thought for us to follow, to take us to better places than this. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. My apologies again. I've gone through and checked my other titles now, so I hope we're off and running smoothly. So, Mark, question from judges.
Carly, thank you. That was fascinating. I was wondering, could you elaborate perhaps on, here you're telling us stories about, your analysis of stories about other people telling the stories. Can you use a similar approach to analyse self-narrative about perhaps internal battles and whether one is fighting against oneself?
Yes, I think you could. I mean, my work looks at cultural products because I'm interested in things that sort of resonate with a lot of people in a society at a particular time. So I've chosen to look at novels that have also been made into very successful movies, because often when something's popular, it's kind of striking a chord with us. It's something we're all thinking about. And I think violence against outsiders and this sort of us versus them thinking is very prevalent in sort of the world particularly, but in our culture today. But yes, I mean, you could also use the same kind of technique to look at your own sort of stories that you narrate your life with. Thank you.
Thank you again, Colleen.